First, a warning: Tangier is not a place you visit only once. It will charm you, surprise you, make you want to look, then look again. Or at least that's how it was for me. The first time I visited the city was as a child, when my family spent a summer vacation there, swimming, fishing and sightseeing. I still remember the pleasure of encountering the local dialect, which was more musical than the one we spoke in the capital. Rabat, the terror of getting lost in the Souk Dakhli while my parents were shopping, and I felt when I saw the opening to the Caves of Hercules. Later, Tangier became the landscape that inspired my first collection of short stories, Hope and Other Dangerous Pursuits. It's where my husband and I spent anniversary weekends, and the last place I saw my father before he passed away. The city holds some of the most significant memories I have of my country, which is perhaps why I've continued to return, year after year. What should I read before I pack my bags? It's impossible to capture Morocco's extraordinarily rich history in one volume. Depending on your interests, you might enjoy Dreams of Trespass by the feminist intellectual Fatima Mernissi, which chronicles her girlhood in Fez in the 1940s. Memories of Absence by Omar Boum, which explores how for generations of Muslims in southern Morocco remember their Jewish neighbors. Or Black Morocco by Chouki El Hamel, which tells the history of enslaved people from the 16th century to the beginning of the 20th. I would also recommend Rebel Music by Hisham Diaidi, written by a Columbia University professor and a native of Tangier. The book uncovers connections between the Muslim world and the West, using music as a focal point. Diaidi shows how hip-hop, nawa, reggae and jazz have come to reflect young Muslims' shared consciousness, their political identities and civil rights activism. Bonus, you can listen to the book's accompanying playlist while you pack. What books help explain the city? For Bread Alone by Mohammed Chowkri, translated from the Arabic by Paul Bowles. Chowkri is a towering figure in Moroccan literature, and this novel is perhaps his best. It follows a young boy who leaves his village for Tangier, where his mother tells him he can have all the bread he could ever want. Instead, the boy is neglected, abused and eventually left to fend for himself. Chowkri's voice is fearless, haunting and true. The Lemon by Mohammed Rabat, translated from Darija Moroccan Arabic by Paul Bowles. Unlike Chowkri, who made his living as a school teacher, Rabat was illiterate. This stark, vivid novel was recorded on tape and then translated by Bowles. It's about a 12-year-old boy who befriends a group of outcasts after he is thrown out of the house by his father. The book's frank depictions of sex, drugs, and alcohol made it somewhat controversial when it appeared in 1969. The Last Friend by Tahar Ben Jelloun, translated from the French by Linda Coverdale. Ben Jelloun is an extraordinarily prolific writer, having produced dozens of works including novels, stories, collections of poetry, and plays. Set in Tangier in the 1960s, The Last Friend tells the story of two teenagers who meet in a French high school at a time of political upheaval and revolutionary fervor, told from three different perspectives. The novel asks us to consider the limits of loyalty to friends, lovers, and even nations. What did authors who came to visit have to say? A lot, as it turns out. Tangier has long been a source of inspiration and fascination for writers from all over the world. Among them Paul and Jane Bowles, whose association with the city is perhaps the best known. But long before the Bowleses settled in Tangier, the Harlem Renaissance writer Claude McKay had made a home in the city. His autobiography A Long Way From Home devotes a good section to his experiences in Morocco. Others who spent time in the city include Tennessee Williams, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Jean Genet, Gertrude Stein, Alice B. Toplis, and Juan Goya Solo. Some years ago, Mohammed Chowkri wrote 3 short books about his relationships with Genet, Williams, and Paul Bowles, the 3 expat authors he knew best. These books are collected in Tangier and make for a fascinating, and at times disturbing, reflection on art, collaboration, and power. If I have no time for day trips, what books could take me there instead? Driss Krabi's classic The Simple Past, published in 1954, when Morocco was on the cusp of regaining its independence, is set in Casablanca and Fez. It's an entrancing novel, full of violence and beauty, about a teenager's rebellion against his tea merchant father referred to throughout the book as the Lord and the French administrators who run the country. Coming across the work of Krabi in my teens was an important part of my literary education, and he's remained a reference since. Another book I recommend often is Year of the Elephant by Leila Abousaid, translated from the Arabic by Barbara Parmenter, which is about an anti-colonial activist from Rabat whose husband divorces her abruptly and without explanation. Abousaid writes with great heart and spirituality about independence, identity, and reinvention. Mariam Alawi's Straight from the Horse's Mouth follows a Casablanca sex worker who is offered a chance to appear in a Dutch film, translated from the French by Emma Ramadan. The novel is told in diary form, in a tone that is at once dark and funny, for a broad selection of contemporary short stories. You could also read the common special issue on stories and art from Morocco, which includes works by Malika Mustadraf and Mohammed Zafzaf. What should I read for a broader historical perspective? The Travels of Ibn Battuta. In 1325, a young Amaziah by the name of Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Battuta left Tangier for Mecca. Instead of returning home after completing his pilgrimage, he continued eastward, traveling some 75 miles over the next 3 decades, the journey reportedly longer than that of Marco Polo. At the end of his life, Ibn Battuta finally returned to Tangier and wrote, or rather, dictated, his travelogue. I drew some inspiration from Ibn Battuta's travelogue style for my novel The Moor's Account, which is based on the true story of Estebanico, an enslaved black man from Morocco who was brought to Florida on a colonial expedition in 1528, but quickly found himself stranded in America with 3 Spanish noblemen. What's a good place to curl up with a book on a day off? The Cinema Riff, an Art Deco movie theater beautifully restored by the Moroccan visual artist Ino Barada. The attached cafe serves drinks and light meals and is a perfect place to sit for a while with. Agabuk, Tangier, as it is called today, has been under Roman rule. In 1st century BC, along came the Vandals, who started their move across Africa from here. Between the 4th and 5th centuries, Tangier was part of the Byzantine Empire. The Arabs arrived in the early 700s. Portuguese laid claim to the area in late 1400s. Spain and Portugal held Tangier together for about 60 years, becoming Portuguese again in the mid-1600s. Catherine of Braganza, Portugal, was to marry Charles II of England. Tangier was given to Charles as part of the princess dowry. You can read more about this northern port city on our Tangier guide written by our local expert writer. The British ruled the city until Sultan Moulay Ismail imposed a blockade which forced the British to withdraw. Upon leaving, the British destroyed the city and its port. Although partially reconstructed, the city declined to around 5,000 people in early 1800s. Because of its geographic location, many European countries have vied for control. France was the most influential when the Kaiser of Germany said he was in favor of Morocco remaining a free country. This nearly triggered a war between France and Germany. Morocco was divided between France and Spain. Tangier. In the 1920s, Tangier became an international zone, held by France, Spain, Britain, and Italy until World War II. Spain held control of Tangier until Morocco gained its independence. She was reunited with the rest of the country. Tangier has a checkered past, once known as a safe haven for international spies and a meeting place for secret agents. Tangier is used as the location for many spy novels and movies, and also had quite a reputation as a smuggling center. Tangier attracted many artists such as Matisse and Tiffany. Authors like Chowdhury, native to the area, and Burroughs wrote about the city and surrounding area. Today, Tangier is the second industrial center in Morocco with its Tangier Free Zone. Construction should be completed by the end of 2008 on the second Tangier Mediterranean port. Fishing and agriculture are two smaller industries adding to her economy. Tangier is connected to the rest of Morocco by rail and new expressways. Ibn Battuta International Airport is 15 kilometers from the city's center. Even with all the modern industries, Tangier still has an old Medina where artists ply their wares. Leather goods are the specialty along with traditional clothing, shoes, silver crafts, and wood items. The entrance gate to the Medina is found near the Great Mosque and it connects with the beaches. Tourism is becoming an important industry with foreign investors building seaside resorts. Cape Spartel, the entrance to the Straits of Gibraltar, is nearby. Visitors go there to see the famous lighthouse as well as the coast of Europe from the African side. Tangier is a fast-growing city population-wise. In the last 20 years, population of the city has quadrupled.